the way.
Oh, thanks. It's summer coming along now, which always makes me feel a bit better. A little bit of vitamin D, some exercise.
Meanwhile, it's winter here, so
I know it's so hard. When I came back from the States, it was winter, and I'd like to pretend that the weather doesn't affect me, but it was bloody depressing coming from summer to just bleak, cold,
yeah,
miserable weather.
a little bit.
Wet.
I am super excited to see your images.
Well, I hope they don't disappoint this time. You know, if I set the bar a bit high last time for you.
I have no doubt that you will exceed expectations. So tell me, same thing as last time. Tell me a little bit about the image and creating it, what you love, and then I'm going to grade you on a scale of 1 to 3.
Okay, so this one that we're looking at here, is one that I captured on my recent travels, and I'm really happy with the way the light picks up the water. And the idea was to demonstrate the scale, that sense of scale,
Mm-hmm.
with the big rock. And I had the thought that it's that impossible magnitude of impermanence, that it's always been shaped and changed and eaten away by the tide. And with the little children there, that kind of helped illustrate the point too, that time is, moments are fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty happy with the image. The color in the sky, it was sunset, so the sky kind of had that golden hue. I think I added a bit of texture in there because it seemed a bit boring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that, I kind of think it helps. I don't know. There were lots of little birds flying around all here, but they just look like black specks. You can't really see them in the image. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this one, really.
So you had an image that you shared in your level 4 critique that was also this very vast sort of ocean shoreline scene with these very, very small people. So I'm seeing a little bit of a pattern here, and I positively love this one. I really, really loved how unique the other one was, but I think one is going to trump it for me. I usually am not a big fan of the smooth, empty sky. I tend to, composite backgrounds a lot with clouds if I don't get good sky. But I think that it really works here because you have these very, very strong horizontal lines that add this almost like graphic design kind of element that I just find really, really appealing about your work. It's very unique from most other like shore scenes that you see in any kind of photographer's portfolio. I love the grandeur of this island, giant rock mountain in comparison to how little your subjects look. Like it just really like hammers home the message of how small and insignificant we actually are in the world, let alone the universe. And I love it. I love the lines of it. I love the coloring. I totally agree with you. I think the texture is adding just enough intrigue to make it not boring or too much negative space without taking away from the very linear kind of design element that you have going. I don't have any negative critique for this one. I love this shot. I'm gonna give it a 3. I think it's exceptional. It's one of my favorites I've seen from you so far.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think this is a current favorite, so I'm glad to get that feedback from you. We go to the next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we've just come through this portfolio crafting exercise, right? And one of the questions that came up for me is, do I make a fine art portfolio and a landscape portfolio? Do I separate out my portfolios, and what belongs where? So this one, I think, tends to be more of a landscape, but maybe it's fine art. I'm pretty happy with it. I wondered if these little tufts of grass, maybe, like if I totally cloned those out, it might be too smooth, but I'm tempted to kind of remove some of those little black spots. But I don't know, I like the image. It's a cropped quite heavily. I mean, the trees were much more prominent in the raw file. It's a larger image, but I liked this photographer that was walking through the trees. I mean, at like 5 in the morning when you get up and walk around, usually they're the only other, if you happen across them when they're the only other people that have a camera in their hands.
This is another one that I love, and it's somewhere in between. This is definitely a hybrid between like landscape and fine art. But it's really interesting because I think that a lot of photographers tend to it in order to give that kind of ethereal fairyland images, and yours accomplishes this magic and mystique without seeming unrealistic or seeming like it's an imaginary place. It has its own magic, but it's still rooted in where you were, which I really love and I think is really difficult to do. I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that some of the tufts of grass are a little bit distracting, particularly directly below your little person there. There's a couple on that one that I think I would those ones, and on the left-hand side I would probably remove just a couple before it starts to get really dark in the corner. It's leaning a little heavy to the left just because of how dark it is on the left-hand side, specifically in that bottom corner. So I'd be interested to see you go in and maybe just darken up a little bit on the top and on the right, and give it just a little bit more of a slightly even vignette. I don't want to overpower it too much, but I think it would help to suck you down. That's how I want to kind of go. You have this beautiful, soft kind of mist, dead center, and then it gets a lot sharper and higher. You just play with the contrast a little bit more on that just to even it up, because I feel like you want to look almost off the image as opposed to dead center down it. I'm really, really madly in love with your scale that you're showing people. Like, I love that they're almost an afterthought to the image, but they just really put into perspective the grandeur of everything that you're shooting. And I think that it's a really strong element, and I'm the kind of person that tends to clone people out because they're in my way of everything I see that's beautiful, and I totally think it works here, which is really, really hard for you to do with, because I always want them removed. But it totally works here, and I think it's a really beautiful element, and I like that little up in a lot of your signature for you that is really, really strong. So even with the little minor adjustments, some of the highlights over on the right, and maybe changing the vignette and a little bit with some of the tops, I think this is really outstanding.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, yeah, it's breaking up a lot. Okay, yeah, good. I'll take those notes and try it out. See what I can come up with. The small nondescript figures is an intentional thing in that I like to respect people's privacy, but I also like people to identify with the figure. If you can't recognize the person, you're more likely to identify with the human form without, the details don't distract. So this image, I'm not sure if you can hear me. That's the only thing. Hello?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So this one, I kind of love it, but there's something that bothers me about it. So it's here for critique because I'd like it to be in my portfolio, but I think it needs a little, I don't know, I think it needs something, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's more light on the ship or bringing more light onto the opera house, or if I went a bit crazy with this kind of blurring around the edges, maybe that doesn't work. I waited for the composition of the tall ship coming into the harbor, and it's almost exactly where I would hoped it to be, but I haven't done any shifting to the left, which ideally it would just be over probably a little bit to give a more separation from the opera house and the tall ship. But the idea of masking out and moving it is just, I don't know, all the rigging and everything, I don't know, it's really fussy to move something like that. So it's here to see, you know, does it belong in the portfolio? Do I need to tweak it? Yeah, it's here for your thoughts.
I think that it would be stronger running into each other. Taking away from the epicness on their own, right? That they should kind of be co-stars. I kind of feel like they're completely in the touching. I think it's a little more in the color scheme if I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. So I do agree with you that I think that if you picked up the ship and moved it to the left a little, don't think that you have to go in and individually mask out all the rigging. You could probably go in and actually cut it out on a broader scale on a separate layer and move it over that way and then just fill in. I don't think it would be quite as tedious as it would. And actually, if you want to send me the image, I'll walk you through it because I'm thinking that we could probably do it in under 5 minutes. I like it. It's pretty, but it's not holding the same weight the other two images you have. So but it's in between. It's actually in between a 1 and a 2 for me. I do think it's a good image. I don't think that it would make your portfolio for me as cool of a shot. I just don't think it's holding the same weight that some of your other artistry is holding.
Okay.
So I think it's commendable, but I definitely don't think it's your best. And I think that you already know that too.
Yeah. I just need
want it the same way. Like, it is a really cool shot.
I like the kind of old world, new world moment there, but you're right, it's here because I wanted some guidance with it, and I have it on my portfolio on my website, but I might take it down now today and do something with it and leave it out, just put it in my Sydney gallery or something. So this is one of the first ones in this style where I really isolated out the little touch of reality here to tie in her place. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. Her little feet really sunk down into the sand quite a bit. Kind of ideally, if she might be a bit taller, but it also adds to that experience we all have where we're standing at the shoreline and our our feet sink down into the sand, and I just loved her curiosity and wonder at the waves.
Mm-hmm. To me, but it still has that element of the photograph. Like, you do a very, very good job of blending the photography with the feel and magic of art. Don't have to be anchored into the scale of her in the middle of this vast ocean. Really just kind of waterline is blending right by her feet where you get a really beautiful image. So this one would definitely make your portfolio for me. I do think that this one is first two that we shared. So I'm going to give this one a 3. I think it's exceptional.
Great. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's breaking up on my end, so I have no idea what you said. Maybe I can watch this back later. I can watch it back later and find out what you're actually saying. But we'll keep moving along. This one was a portrait that was done by request, and this year I've had about 5 or 6 people ask me to do their portraits. I'm happy to do it if I feel a connection with the person, but it's probably not. I think of myself more as a fine art photographer. I like creating something with just the freedom of creating something that is organically manifested in a moment. But I also don't mind being paid to do people's pictures. So this one's here because it's not my strongest skill set, the portraiture, and the brief for this one was professional but grungy, and I think it met the brief, but I really struggled with the skin tones and getting the texture to blend without it being too grungy on the face, and thought I could get some pointers here for that and get you to critique the image, because that's your strong suit, is the working with people.
And I like this image as a whole. I think that it's a little heavy on the texture, but that's just personal taste. I totally could for you. But I don't think that for you that it's as strong as some of the other images that you.
Yeah, it's not my usual style. It's not my usual style. Sorry if I'm interrupting because I can't hear you. I don't know if you're speaking or not when I'm speaking. It's not my usual style. It's not my kind of art thing. But when people ask and they're willing to pay you, I guess This year, like I said, I've taken on a few clients, and it changes. The brief changes for every every shot that the person wants. So, yeah, I guess if I were to create I would create a separate area, not a portfolio, but just maybe a gallery where people could view that kind of work separate. Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Would be if you wanted to get into portraits, or if you wanted to create a separate. All right, let's try this again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. It breaks up. I don't know how good we'll go, but I hear you like a bad cell phone connection.
Okay. Well, let's just. So I'm gonna give you 2 for that. That was a strong. Hang on a sec. All right, I think we're good now. I think it's commendable. I just I don't think it's as strong as your other pieces. That said, I do think that it's perfectly fine for you to use, but I wouldn't necessarily have it in your portfolio because you are an artist through and through, and we've been talking about that. And between your music and between your art, there's a very prominent artistic voice showing up in the other 3 of your images that I gave exceptionals that I would hate to see diluted by you including the other 2.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing that's coming out of this exercise is learning what to take away. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard. It was hard for me too. And I had to have somebody smack me in the face with it because they said, well, you want to be taken seriously, intimate portrait artist, but you've got weddings and babies on your thing too. So are you a portrait studio and a mama or are you an artist? And it was really hard for me to take all that down, especially because most of my money was coming from weddings at the time. But when I made it, my boudoir business soared, and everything else came after I made those cuts. So I'm totally fine with people connecting with you having it on social media and going, yes, I do this. I'm totally fine with you getting paid. Your presence online is it should be the images like the 3 that you got exceptional on. I would build your portfolio around that because they're really, really strong and they're very, very you. And nobody is going to compete with you on that. I can compete with you. Martin can compete with you. Bruce can compete with you. We can all compete with you on
the portraiture. I don't even want to try. No?
I know, but that's the point, though, is that we can all fight for the clients on that regard. So I'm fine with you getting paid for it, but I don't think that you have a strong enough voice in it in order to keep it in your portfolio and go, hey, I do this too. But I think that if your message is very clear and you go, I create these beautiful, grand painting-like photographs where they really scale down and show how insignificant we are in the world and how much grandeur and wonder is around us and can fill us, that's a really strong message that I'm not seeing in anybody else between the two cohorts. Seeing it in any of the 8,000 people that follow me on the other social media sites. That's just you, Gretchen. Nobody else is touching that. I think that and that alone would make exceptional gallery shows. I think it would make beautiful art. I could see it as greeting cards. I could see it as paintings hung. They're absolutely worthy of being hotel rooms, and like I just see markets opening up for that on such a big scale for you that you wouldn't need the rest. So little portrait jobs and other things that you're doing, absolutely get paid for them, of course, but I would not be advertising them, because those 3 images, they make you an artist, not a photographer, not anybody with a camera. They're an artist. There's something that people to purchase them. I think that is absolutely at the core of who you are, that is their message.
Awesome. I love how the breakup makes you sound like a roaring lion over here on my end. I will say what's kind of cool is I've got, after this hangout, I'm going to a print lab in a local print lab who I'm going to team up with, that does acrylic blocks and glass prints. And they have a business where they can take your imagery and do like partitions and splashbacks and, large corporate kind of jobs where, like hotels and that kind of thing, where the imagery becomes part of the architecture. So I'm going to check out this guy's lab, and my focus over the past couple of weeks is just getting products made that feature the art and making them available, which is good. It feels good to move forward in that regard. And I've also got, following on from the level 4 critique, I've got a piece going into a local cafe, a huge, 1 meter by 1.5 meter size image going into a local cafe, and it's going to be auctioned off on site after it's been there for a while. So that's forward progress too for me. And a couple of other things have developed that revolve around travel, and transformational travel was the way the guy put it. So yeah, I'm a little bit cautious with the way I'll get into that, but it would involve combining education and travel, and I think that suits me. It suits me well, so that's in the works too. That's good. Yeah.
Okay. So I know you're working on the music and the album as well. So coming up to level 9 and getting ready to cross the threshold into completing your first sphere, what are your goals? Because you're with me for another 10 levels after this. When you hit level 20, what would be the ideal scenario for you?
Okay, well, with the album, I'd like to have this booklet rather than your standard liner note that goes in with the CD. I'd like to have a little book of images that support the songs. So that's a goal. I did that project last year with the self-portraiture. It's a challenge, the self-portraiture, but I kind of like the challenge. But I'm now thinking, I could also easily team with a range of different photographers to create images for the album and that project. So, or maybe a combination. I don't know, but that's a project that ties into my photography, but is also a world unto itself. Just the producing it and getting it made and out there. So by the end of the sphere, I'd like to have the products and educational material that I have had in my mind available for purchase and out in the world. Because I've spent a lot of time thinking about it and sketching it, and it's on kind of paper, but I haven't manifested into having it available for people. And that's, now that it's broken down, it's quite straightforward. It's just a matter of getting it done.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, because you've mentioned teaching as well. Have you given any thought to actually going through the Master Candidacy program and maybe teaching at the Arcanum itself?
Well, Trey mentioned that a long time ago. I initially said no because if I commit to something, I'm going to commit to it fully. And my concern initially was how much time is involved, how much time can I give in the midst of creating what I'm creating, because this is the hammer and tongs foundation of what I'm building. It's a lot of work, a lot of kind of man hours getting that done. And it was also important to me to go through the experience as an apprentice, to have that point of view first. I think it's, I don't know, that's the way I like to approach something, is to have that understanding, innate understanding, before guiding someone else through the process. Yes, I think I would do it. I would take it on. Well, I'll see at the end of this next 10 where I'm at, the logistics of it. And I mean, I think that's something we could talk to each other about, is your experience as far as time commitment and energy commitment. It's interesting that before I came to Google, I was coaching people on creativity, and a lot of focus on opening up your creative flow and breaking through barriers. But what I found was I was spending so much time helping other people, I didn't have any energy left or time left to realize myself. And so I quit doing that. I did that for 3 years, and I was incredibly busy. I think at the peak of it, I had 70 people a week. And it was just became exhausting. I worked with a lot of children too, so that it was just energetically couldn't maintain it after a while. So I took a day job, and the day job was a job that I could just let go of at the end of the day, and it freed me up, and just everything kind of, the channels have been fairly open since then. So having had that experience, I do know I'm cautious because when I commit to taking someone through the journey, I want to be there completely. I don't want to, and it's interesting that I had that experience coming into the Arcanum, because that's exactly what happened to Miss Daniela. She took us on, and then just when things were going to get going, she realized she didn't have the time or energy to commit to it, and it was kind of devastating, really, and it forced me to make a decision that I hadn't expected to have to make. Like, the decision to join the Arcanum was easy, but then it's funny how people are, something changes and you all go, ah! Got it a bit, and it wasn't easy to, because of everything that was happening in my life at the time, it was harder to make a simple decision. But I'm glad I stayed. And to answer your question, yes, I would go take on a cohort in the future for sure.
Okay, well, that's really good to here, be 3 and 5 people per cohort to recommend for the candidacy training, and you are definitely one of the ones on that list that I would like to see do it, because I think that your work is phenomenal, and I think that you have a very unique and very strong voice artistically, and that's one of the hardest things that I think that we teach as masters and mentors and instructors. You know, we can teach the technical, we can teach all the rules, we can even teach them how to see and pose and light and where the shot is, but it takes a lot to inspire people to listen to their voice and to not get caught up in trying to echo the other ones that they hear that they think want to be heard. And so anytime that I see anyone that is doing that very prominently in a way that really just kind of stops me in my tracks and makes me want to look at the images, I see a potential mentor for others in the industry to follow suit. And I definitely think that you have that. So I'm gonna drop you a line after this with some of the details for the candidacy training, and we'll go from there. But you'll actually go through the candidacy training for the next 10 levels while you're leveling up as an apprentice too. It's a separate community, and that way it's not quite so overwhelming. You can kind of work at it at your own pace too, and we can keep working towards the other things that you're doing.
Okay.
I think that for level 9, I was really curious to see if I would see a lot of growth or advancement with you, because you're so far ahead of the curve of a lot of the people that I took on in my original cohort. I took on because they were starting out and they were trying to find their voice, and they're doing that. So I took it on with the knowledge that I was taking on beginners, and you were so far ahead to the point that it was really intimidating to come into Miss Aniela's cohort, because there's so much established talent and such strong vision and artists, that it was a little overwhelming for me too, because I have to take a deep breath and go, I can actually help these people, and they're not already above and beyond me, because I do feel that way with some of you, that I'm a little bit out of my league. It's like a third grade teacher trying to teach college courses.
But that's why I messaged you and said it was your learning process as well, because I knew there would be growing pains like that, and but my philosophy is we are all learning at any level. There's always something to learn, and anybody that's an asshole about it and thinks they're superior, I don't have a time of day for them. I'm serious. If they blow it, and it happens. I had somebody just the other day really talk down to me, and I was like, oh, that's no problem. Here's my card. I made it clear that what I was asking them is not what they thought I was asking them. And so I said, I'll just leave this with you and have a think about it and come back to me. And then when they come back to you after they've gone and looked and I don't know, changed their thinking, in my mind it's too late. I think I have something to learn from everyone, even if it's, and I'm not saying this about you, but even if it's what not to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and sometimes those lessons are just as important. And there's different members in the cohorts that we butt heads on certain things, and we believe the exact opposite, and that's totally fine, because I don't necessarily want anybody to follow my path or what works for me. I just want them to understand what the options are and choose the right path for them. And I think that you just have a very strong presence about you as an artist and as a person in general. You have very strong leadership qualities, so I could totally see other artists following you because of that. And so that makes me want to see you as a teacher. But I also know that you are working on this epic album, and you're creating all this really beautiful work too. So it is a lot, but the people that really move and change the industry and change the world and affect people and become iconic always accomplish a lot. And I definitely think that it's within you to be able to do that. And I'm really impressed to see that in 4 levels, in the foundation levels, where you kind of already were established and were already approached about teaching, that even as a student, that there's still a lot of very evident growth that I see from your level 4 to your level 9 critique. And for me, the first most important trait of a good teacher is a good student. And you are just leaps and bounds all over the place, girlfriend.
Oh, well, I've been at it for a while, this learning thing.
So,
getting all over here.
We're creating the booklet for your album, and what else are we looking to do with your artwork?
So books is on it's been on the agenda for probably at least a year and a half now. The thought of doing a fine art coffee table book. Also, because I'm a multifaceted creative, I'd like to make my niche, if you want to call it, creativity rather than just photography. I think there are a lot more technically minded people who are better equipped to write books on the technicalities of photography. So my approach is to start with changing the way I blog. You know, I tend to just post an image and write a poem and put it out on social media. So now I'm going to change the way I blog with the forethought of that content becoming a book. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
So that for me is a good shift, because then I'm not overwhelmed with the idea of writing some big book. It's just continuing to take topics that tie into the bigger picture and then and fill them out. So yeah, the record is, I have a mentor as well for the record and the music separately, and you know, it's kind of a similar process, and that's what I find interesting, having come from an acting and a filmmaking background and being involved in the music and fine art. There are these common threads that run through all creative arts, and that's kind of what fascinates me, that and education, because I think we're at this unique place in time where we have the power to reach people that are isolated through the internet and with travel. So it's interesting that this this person who runs a travel company is on the scene, if you will, with his transformational travel, because I think the education and the photography and music can tie into these trips, these guided tours that he wants me to do. So that's all fairly new. Okay. I mean, I've always wanted to travel. The traveling to me inspires writing, and I collect pictures and make art as I go. I just hadn't envisioned taking a group of like 12 people along with me for the ride. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome though. I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so that's, by the end of the next sphere, if that's what you call it, I'd like to have a real concrete content, course content. If I'm going to do that, I think it needs to be, the content needs to be put down and revised and, you know, critiqued and rewritten. So that's a goal as well. And I think that has the potential to solve my current financial dilemma, because all this time I've met so much resistance from people close to me saying, get a real job. Just, you're an adult. Every adult needs to have a full-time job. Get out there and do it now. And I was feeling kind of like, I wasted all this time, in my opinion, putting together resumes and applying for jobs that, you know, the higher level jobs, you run into that, you know, the proven track record of 4 years experience, you know, so I'm not going to compete with those people. And then the other jobs just get turned away because you're overqualified. So it's time to make what I do fly and pay for itself, but in a quick, like now. like let's do now, and my husband wants a divorce unless I work it out, you know. That's the kind of pressure. It's like now or never, lady. So
okay. So what does that look like for you financially?
Well, the immediate and what I wanted to talk to you about when you offered your one-to-one was a marketing campaign to do a print, like a mass run on a print. And I thought of using the one with the big monolith there and the little children, the impossible magnitude of impermanence, because of what's happened in my neighborhood with the big tragedy, which I don't know if you read the post I did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just this obliteration of our street, this big tragedy, and I've gotten involved with the community to rebuild the businesses in the local area. So lending my time as a photographer and just being I guess it ties into that leadership thing, doesn't it? I've been in the community for a long time. I'm finding ways to keep rebuilding and keep people going. So because of that, these people have offered to help me publicize what I do. So doing a kind of almost a crowdsource type print run is a thought for me to make money.
I'm all about that, and that worked great for me with my book when I really wanted to do the hardcover version and the publishers wanted to do the paperback. I had them write it in the contract that I could do 1,000 copies, limited edition, hardcover, but I printed them and went through that myself. So it was, you know, it was 5 figures to get that done. It was over somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 when all was said and done. To do it, and I did the same thing. I put up the crowdsourcing and said, I really, really want to do this for you, but I need to know that this is something that you want, because if everybody just wants the paperback and that's enough, then there's no reason for me to do it. And we did like $7,000 in like 8 days that we raised because they wanted it, you know, because they wanted the copy of the book the way that I had created it. I have no doubt that with your kind of artwork and with your following that you could do the exact same thing. I don't know why you haven't done it yet. You have a huge, huge following on your social media with Google. Some of it is just a numbers game. Like, I have less followers than a lot of the people that are on my level professionally, artistically, but my people are diehard fans. I never buy, I never send out, go like my page kind of things. Like, the people that follow because they really want to know what's going on. So I have a higher return on investment when I do actually push to sell something or ask for something because they're invested. But just in a general numbers game, like even if you're only getting 1% of people to buy, how many people do you have connected to you on Google right now?
I think across Google and Facebook, it's reached like 600,000.
Oh, is that all? What's 1% of that?
I know, I've had that thought. And trust me, people are like, if you had a penny for every, it's like, yeah. So before I went traveling, I did a print auction. And my skills as a marketer or blowing my own trumpet, I'm terrible at blowing my own trumpet. Like, it's very un-Australian, but it's also...
It is all American, so I am going to help you out with that. We are fine with that.
I was born in America, too, but I definitely was born into this artistic and musical family, and You know, my grandparents pretty rigid Irish Catholics. You just don't, you never brag, right? And so that's pretty deep in the subconscious to this, and I guess this ties into this level of worth and knowing your worth.
There is a difference. There is a very profound difference in thinking less of yourself and thinking of yourself less often than you are other people. You are a very, very good artist in a lot of different mediums. You have an incredible amount of talent, and you have that being backed up by the fact that 600,000 people in the world want to be connected to you and see what you are doing. That's not bragging. Okay? That's not, and being falsely modest about that is just another form of lying. Like, it's okay to feel a sense of accomplishment and to feel a sense of worth for what you have done that is exceptional. And it is. You create incredibly stunning artistry that connects people to your work and what you have to say. And it emotionally moves them. It's okay to be proud of that. And it's okay to say, I have this gift that I am able to share with the world. And you're not bragging, and it's not egotistical, and it's not conceited, because in your passion lies your purpose. You know, your ability to create this beautiful imagery and do this print run and put it out to the 600,000 people that follow you, if, you know, 1% of them buy that and you donate a portion of the proceeds back to this terrible tragedy that happened, how many lives are you changing? How could that ever possibly be a bad thing?
No, in fact, you know, over the last few years, my mindset has shifted into acknowledging that to not do something with the talent and skills I have is incredibly selfish or cowardly, right? And that's the thing with the record. Like, I ran away from a career in Hollywood because I didn't want to be famous. I had this fear of fame thing, and so I've reached a point now where I don't really give a shit. I'm older. I don't really care if I have to become somebody that speaks publicly about things, as long as it's in alignment with my true self, and doing things that I believe in. So that's...
So what do you believe in?
Well, I believe the world can be better than it is. I think that we have the power to... I believe we're at a new frontier, and that many of us have a responsibility to blaze a trail for the children that are coming into this new world, because it's fraught with disaster if people like us don't stand up and make a stand for what needs to happen. And I think what needs to happen is a more sustainable way of living. I think more people deserve the right to education, and unbiased education. Mm-hmm. So that's right. If that is clear, I'm distracted because the phone's ringing and this. That's okay. I'm gonna ignore it, but yeah, I don't know if I translated my thoughts very well. But no. My time here, like, I shouldn't actually be alive, right? I had the odds stacked against me from day one, but I'm here, and so I reckon there's a purpose behind having my time that I do have, and I want to do what I can to leave it better for my kids.
Okay, so I need you to close your ears to anybody that's telling you that the most important thing is for you to have a full-time job and make money, because you are aware, even if you let them drown that out, that time is a far more valuable currency than money. You have a very limited supply of it. We're at least a third, if not halfway through our time that we get to spend here. It is not worth it if you are not happy. And the reason that you're filling out resumes or that you're considering other things is because other people are pressuring you because they don't have your vision. It's coming from a place of love. I absolutely believe that. Anytime anybody says, this is nonsense, you can't make it, get a real job, what they're really saying is, I love you, I want you to be able to support your life, and I'm scared for you. You know, it does come from a place of love, but misguided love, because they're fearful, because they can't imagine themselves doing something like that. You have a greater purpose, which is why everything inside you is constantly rebelling against doing that. Listen to your own voice before you listen to any of theirs. Absolutely, all the time. And if your voice isn't loud enough, come talk to me, girlfriend, because I will yell louder than any of them for you.
Oh, good.
That being said, you know, money is also important. Money doesn't buy us happiness, but money buys us a lot of the things that allow for the experiences that do make us happy and allow us to provide for the people that we love. So that's definitely, you know, definitely a focus. You have your album. You have all of these beautiful prints that we can do print runs with. You're thinking about a book. You're also putting together this teaching thing and the curriculum for that. So you have several very major projects going on, all of which are worthy. You do not have to choose one, but I do think that you need to choose which one first. So which one would you like to focus on for the next 10 levels? Because we're going to work on making that a success and then building off of that to the next thing. So if you had to set all of them aside and pick one right now, which would it be?
I think the most immediate course of action over the next week is organizing the print run. I think that has to happen first, because a lot of what I'm doing hinges on having that income.
Okay.
I canceled my production set. I'm meant to be in the studio right now, and I canceled it. I don't have the money to pay the producer, so getting that income flow happening is absolutely imperative to also being able to fully channel my energy, because it's a constant, you know, plus I have kids and other things coming at me all the time. So sometimes I sit at my computer and I'm in the middle of something and it's like, Mom, or I'm hungry, or honey, where'd you put this or that, or get the, you know, and it takes an incredible amount of energy just to demand the focus for myself. So if the print run is out, and that's going to take a huge weight off my shoulders that will then allow me to focus on creating the imagery that goes with the album I'm making.
Okay.
The record is you know that quote in Toy Story where the guy says, "You can't rush art."
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like that.
Okay.
So, and because it's a collaborative, because I'm working with a producer as well, I'm not going to put as solid of a time frame on that project. So, print run, products for, I'd like to have a real specific set of cards. And I'm going to do these acrylic blocks. I'm going to the lab after this conversation to make these beautiful acrylic blocks with my artwork, because when light shines through them, I think it enhances that kind of luminous quality that a lot of them have, and I think they'd make great gifts for Christmas, and they're more affordable than a big signed archival piece of work. So that's the focus right now.
Okay. And you know what? I'm really glad to hear you say that, because if I had to choose for you, that's where I would choose too. So we're in the same line. So the next 10 levels are going to go a little bit differently. The first 10 were foundation levels. They were for everyone to interact with each other and get used to the Arcanum and kind of find their path. You're on it now. So where we were kind of like the trunk of this grand artistic tree, now we're starting to branch off. So the next sphere is going to go a little differently. Instead of there being level 11, level 12, level 13, and all of you are doing them together and having the same assignments, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually build you your own specific sphere guide, and it is going to be for you and no other, and it's going to be based off of this project. So what I want to do is I want to sit down with you again, probably sometime next week, early in the week, and you and I are going to put together an entire 10 sphere level guide that is basically going to end with you having these print sales that are going to, we're going to set the amount to be able to support your lifestyle right now, so that when anybody says you need to get a real job, you can just shove $100 bill in their mouth and tell them to go away. That's the goal. And
I would love to actually physically do that. It would feel so good right now.
Yep, that's it. That's exactly what we're going to do. And then the other concept is for it to finance the next project for you. Yes. So, you know, time in the studio. And I'm really interested in your book. I think that your book and like a collaborative book of all of the work that you're doing with the print run would also kind of feed into that. So those two, I think, can feed in. So I'd like to hear a little bit more of that. But I think that by level 20, we would actually have the sales of those images, and the last 4 levels would probably be you approaching your goal financially on that realm, so that when you leave level 20 and you exit the doors and you decide if you're going to teach at the Arcanum or you're going to continue your studying for higher spheres or you're going to go on your way, that you can do so with your bags packed and money in your pocket and go, yes, here I am, I'm going to go do this, see it, and you can send me postcards from all the beautiful places that you go.
Awesome. That's
all right. So you have passed your level 9 with flying colors, and you should go in and get congratulated by everybody that's watching and supporting you right now.
And I forgot about that.
What I would like you to do is, I know you're running out now, but what I would like you to do is I would like you to sit down and really consider how many prints you would like to do a print run of, which images they are, if you're going to create any new work. And then we're going to talk about offering them as a limited edition series. I don't want you to necessarily do them as just like a grand print run where you're printing them off, because you're an artist. It should be a highly coveted thing for people to have one of your signed images. That should be a treasure, you know. And if it's offered at every single level, then, you know, and anybody can pick it up anytime. It takes a little bit of the emergency and the what makes it special out, you know. Like if somebody had a Picasso painting, like how much money is that worth? Because there's only a certain amount. You know, with photography it's a little different because we're not doing a painting, you know, and we're not just offering prints of the painting. Like there's only one original work. So I think that we need to get back a little bit towards being an artist, which, girlfriend, if not you, no one. Like you are just an artist soul through and through. So I'd like to see you start building your business around being an artist.
Okay. Yeah? I can do that.
All right. So start going through your images, pick the ones that you want to offer for print, and I would like you to upload them once you cross 10 and into Sphere 1. Your level 11 is going to be to upload an album of all of the prints that you want to sell, and then we're going to have everybody else kind of help pick out your strongest ones and which ones they would be most likely to invest in. I think that'll be some good feedback for you, and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Great.
All right, girlfriend. We'll go conquer your day. I'm very excited. I want to see pictures of these acrylic blocks and things that you're getting done.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.